I'm Jennifer.
Standing in the middle of the room, I watched as the silence, after the revelation, hung heavy. The large screen had just gone black, and the evidence of my husband Mark's affair with my cousin Lily was still fresh in everyone's minds. Mark, a 42-year-old CEO of a software company in Seattle, sat slumped in his chair, his face ashen. Lily, 29, stood rigid, her eyes fixed on the floor. It all started when I was cleaning the hall closet one fateful afternoon. I'm not one to snoop, but out slipped a Polaroid photo. As the image developed, my world shattered. There was Mark, with his broad shoulders and the small mole on his left shoulder that I knew so well, and a woman with long auburn hair. Something about her was achingly familiar. That night, Mark came home as usual. He kissed me on the forehead and talked about ordering Chinese food from my favorite place. I forced a smile and nodded, all the while hiding the photo in my pocket. I couldn't confront him right away. I needed proof. Over the next few weeks, I transformed. I was no longer the naive wife who believed his late-night meeting excuses. I started by checking his phone. Mark always kept it face down on the table, a habit that now seemed suspicious. One morning, while he was in the shower, I unlocked it using the Face ID I'd practiced accessing while he slept. The call history showed a repeated number, and he was using encrypted messaging apps. I searched his car and found an old, dusty phone in the glove box. When I charged it, a message lit up. "My love, can't wait for Sunday dinner. Pretending is getting harder." I began to piece things together. I checked his credit card statements and found strange withdrawals. One time he said he was in a business meeting in Tacoma, but the Uber receipt led to a cozy apartment in the suburbs. Sunday dinners were a tradition in my family. My parents, warm-hearted and loving, would cook a big meal. My brother and his wife would bring their kids. And then there was Lily, who had lived with us for a year after a bad breakup. Mark had suddenly become very interested in having her at our dinners. That particular Sunday dinner, I watched Mark and Lily closely. I saw the way he looked at her, and it wasn't the look of a man looking at his wife's cousin. After dinner, when everyone went inside to watch a movie, I excused myself to the bathroom where Lily had left her purse. I opened her phone with the passcode I knew from her high school days. The messages between her and Mark were heart-wrenching. They were planning to leave me, and they had been using my family's money for their apartment. I started to gather more evidence. I installed a small microphone in Mark's study and a camera in the corner of the living room. I hired a private investigator in Olympia, using my maiden name just in case. 3 days later, the investigator sent me a report. There were photos of Mark and Lily entering and leaving the same apartment multiple times, all while I was in Portland taking care of my sick father. I also discovered that Lily had used fake photos to pretend she was in New York for a job opportunity. She had been right here, betraying me with my husband. I transferred all the money from our joint investment account to my personal one, which I had set up before our marriage. I was just protecting what was mine. I planned a special dinner for both sides of the family, right before Mark was set to be promoted at work. I set up a 65-inch TV and pretended it was a tribute to Mark. When the slideshow of evidence started, the room fell silent. Mark tried to deny it, but I had all the proof. Lily tried to make excuses, but I cut her off. I presented Mark with divorce papers and told him I wouldn't expose his unethical behavior at work if he signed. To Lily, I gave an envelope with a waiver of inheritance and a demand for repayment of all the money I'd given her over the years. My father, a strong and principled man, spoke up, saying there was no place for betrayal in our family. My mother, with tears in her eyes, asked me why I hadn't told her earlier. I said I didn't want to hurt anyone. A year has passed since then. I now live in a small apartment in downtown Seattle with a view of the waterfront. I've advanced in my career as an interior designer. Mark was transferred to a branch in Denver after an ethics review. Lily went back to New York for Real to start over. I've kept the letters she sent me, not to dwell on the past, but to remind myself of how far I've come. I've painted my living room a soft blue, a color Mark always said was too feminine. I've surrounded myself with new friends who know my story and respect me. I've learned that freedom comes from having the courage to let go of what's no longer worthy. I'm no longer the Jennifer who lived in the shadow of a false marriage. I'm living in my own light now.